Hi, this is Sean, and this is the Infinite Creative Podcast.
And my name is Fitz, and we're talking all about creative stuff, freelance stuff, and all that other stuff. That's a lot of stuff, Sean.
Yeah, triple on the stuff, on the creative stuff.
That's whoa! I never heard so much stuff before. But yeah, today we're talking about a logo that came out, and it was like a little bit confusing to us because like it kind of gave some weird conspiracy vibes, and it was vibes. That's what I was trying to say. But it came from a government official website, or yeah, you should introduce that a little bit better. But yeah, explain it.
Sorry, people. Please, we apologize. We haven't had enough coffee. All right, we're here now. Okay, so today's new news that came out this week was about a new logo for a section of the Space Command Force. I guess they have all these different subsections of the Space Operations Command, and you know, it was really interesting because they released this new logo. I'll go ahead and share that right now. And so they shared this new logo for their Space Delta.
It looks really spiffy.
It looks spiffy, but it's very, what's really interesting about this logo is that it's has very ancient alien vibes, I've got to say. Like, it's really interesting. So you have the Sphinx here in the center of this planet, and they're staring up at this kind of star. I don't know if you know anything about ancient Egypt, but I think the Sphinx and a lot of the pyramids, well, the pyramids align to, I think the Orion's belt, I believe. I think even the Great Pyramid points towards Cyrus, and I think the Sphinx points towards Polaris, I believe. So I think that's what it is there at the top. That little star is Polaris, which we're not going to get too deep into the alien part of this, but a lot of people believe that that there is some aliens or some different type of beings that maybe come from Polaris or from Cyrus, and so. So it's like really interesting, this logo, how it kind of really, they released this logo, yeah, and it has this really weird mystical fantasy type of thing. So it really kind of makes you wonder what in the heck, what are they doing?
What's going on there? Because on the other side, you have to think about this. This is not like some random site where you're just like, okay, let's come up with some concepts. It can be a little bit crazy. No, this is a government official website.
Yeah.
It's the Space Force. I think like Trump made this thing happen, I think, back in the day.
Kinda,
or you announced it. I don't know. But yeah, it's just kind of weird because like you said, like there's a lot of conspiracy because all those pyramids were built so precisely that people nowadays still are kind of confused, like how did we do this back in the day?
Yeah, and it's just very interesting when you see like you think of the military and government as being like people that are definitely not going to put anything out there about aliens or anything about ancient civilizations. But yeah, so very interesting. So I think this is the Sphinx. I'm guessing it also could just be a pharaoh, and if so, I don't know which pharaoh's head this would be on here. But very weird, right? You have the Space Force of the United States having Egyptian symbology in their emblem. And so this kind of like got me started digging deeper into the Space Force logos, and so if we go and kind of look at like the beginning, all these ads on this page, but if we go and look here at the symbol for Space Force, so it's interesting because I thought this would have been a brand spanking new symbol, right? Because you just said like Trump kind of created this branch and things, but I guess it was first used in 1961 for the U.S. Air Force, and there was a Space Command in the U.S. Air Force. So that's a lot of people don't really realize is that here in Colorado, this is where Space Force is based. I think Trump tried to move it, but yeah. So it's like Space Command has existed as a section of the Air Force, and then when Space Force came out, all it was saying like, oh, let's just take this section out of the Air Force, and so this has existed. So you can see here, like the star in the middle is supposed to symbolize Polaris. You have these beveled elements that are supposed to show the joint mission of the Air Force, Army, Navy, and Marines. It's actually really interesting. So I actually have a connection into the Space Force. I actually know one of the directors of Space Force. And it's interesting because all these different, I know, things you don't know. And but like there's these connections between the armed forces where they actually kind of run. So they still run with all of these different different parts of the military where they kind of run operations for Space Force. So sometimes they'll call Air Force to do stuff. They'll call the Navy to do things. So this logo shows that. It all goes up into a point. Obviously, I think to just show that they're shooting up into the vastness of space. They're a rocket launching upward. And so this was like the original logo. So you'll see this shape popping up pretty much everywhere. So here's like the second Delta logo, which is really funny and looks like an old kind of mechanics logo or something. I don't really know. It's like we have this electrical bolt that's shooting up, and then something's kind of in orbit. So maybe they have something to do with shooting stuff up and putting it in orbit. You have number 3 here, which just looks like, your favorite arena football team logo. No, I mean, it's
basically, like, to be honest, it really looks like it. But
like a sports team.
The second logo was the best one so far, I think. Like the Space Force logo is a really sexy logo.
Yeah, and then so you have these lightning bolts. I don't know what that means. This is just like we're launching stuff again. Here again, now this is when we're launching eyeballs into space. I don't know if you guys have seen the eyeballs with the big wings in the sky, but this is who's doing that.
It looks like a little bit the Illuminati,
Yeah, a little Illuminati vibes here, right? And then also if you look here where like the arrow, like you see the globe, it's like going over the like Antarctica or something. Isn't that weird? How like whatever this rocket ship or something and this is like on the top of the globe. And so there's like
at least the globe. It's a globe, at least.
And I don't know if
is it a disc?
I don't know. And then, Journey to the Center of the Planet, man. I definitely think there could be a hole in Antarctica, and that's what this is just showing, yo, bro, we got a hole, we got an eyeball watching the hole. It's, a lot of magic things, And then, space tigers, right? Space tigers are a thing, and I'm glad that they're watching out for them, personally, because, especially with chopsticks, when you get a tiger with lightning chopsticks like this, it can be a real bad thing, That's where you get your bad electrical storms from.
Yeah.
And
but on a different note,
we got to keep going.
I just want to say, like, to be clear here, because like you cannot talk about like conspiracies and all that kind of stuff on like Spotify, and YouTube is kind of fine, but in general, they did not do a really good job to be very distinct and like calm the waters down, because like I see a lot of confusing messages from the government coming out there.
Yeah, and I mean, such an obsession with lightning bolts. I mean, I'm just so interested in, like, what the heck is up with all these lightning bolts? Is, like, Thor the president of Space Force? I don't understand this.
So who did design those logos? That is the real question. So maybe we can figure that out and we go from there. Yeah, giving some credit.
We got bears who have the keys to the universe. That's a big thing. I mean, and this one's kind of interesting because you actually have like some type of, like, this is kind of weird. Like, you see this type of like map of stars, and then they have this line from one of the stars going to Polaris. So that's a little weird. Like, oh, well, what's that going to this like galaxy far away? And I'll just quickly go through these. So now we have another one here where now we have mountains and loops around a planet over the mountains, but then yet again there's always that star that it's going to. So I'm almost thinking like Space Force is like some cover up to get to some star or something. Yet again, got a big star. This one looks kind of evil, like this is like an evil version, where it's the star's red. So this is very blank and ambiguous. This one's kind of interesting, where yet again, here we have a genie lamp. So now we've really hit all the fantasy things in Animal World. So so we have a genie lamp here, and then and I'm almost done here. But then you have a target here of I don't know what this red star is. This almost seems like it's almost anti-Russian or something, going after a red star within its crosshairs. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. This one's looking very Star Trek-y. This one's kind of weird, though. Like, I don't really get what's happening here. I guess you see, like, a rocket, it seems like, and then there seems to be, like a bomb or a mine that's shooting past it, or, like, that's a satellite, maybe? I don't know.
I don't want to say something, but there is, like, 45 of them, if they count in a row. So there's, like, Space Delta 1 till Space Delta Launch Delta 45. There's a lot of logos. How many are you gonna do, Sean?
This is the
I
final
gotta
one.
ask. This is
This
the final one.
one.
Okay, just checking.
Because they don't all have emblems, so you just pulled that up. But this is the last one that has because the one that just came out is Space Delta 18. So this is the last one I'll show. Yet again, so we have bears in space, we have tigers with chopsticks, and we have owls that are holding. I don't know. I guess you could say that they're holding a disc. I don't know. It's just very interesting. Like, what the heck is all this mysterious symbology that they're using here in the military? I mean, owls. You find owls in a lot of weird places symbolically. Like, you find them on, I think it's the dollar bill that they have. There's an owl hidden in there. So in a lot of old, like Revolutionary War era stuff, they used to hide owls in a lot of places. As just a symbolic thing. And I forgot what it actually stands for. I wish I knew that, but yeah. So it's really weird, right? So the newest one to add to this weird, crazy array of all these logos is our new Egyptian logo. So I only wonder what's next for the Space Force. Are we gonna have a Teletubby in space? Is it going to be, is the next one like going to be a snake? We don't have any snakes. I feel like we need like an Adam and Eve one coming up or something. We need like an apple and a snake in space or something. But anyway, what's your thoughts on all this, man? What do you think?
It's not very consistent. I mean, it's consistent and it's not consistent. Like the styles, and the colors and the themes. On the one side, they're kind of matching and they're kind of not matching. I like I don't know. It is a very weird, confusing array of logos, to be honest.
It is. And,
because none of them are like the same. The only thing that is the same is the stars and the lightning. But then the way that it's portrayed is not always the same. You know what I mean? So if the only same is the triangle kind of sort of thing or the shape.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I mean, some of them I think you can kind of tell what they do. Like, this one with the satellite dish, it obviously has something to do with satellites and communication. But yeah, some of them, you're right. They're just completely bonkers. Like, what the heck does this mean? Like, it's this tower.
So there's no lightning. There's maybe a star, but you could completely misread this. Like you said, like could been.
Like, what's a red star mean? Yeah.
Yeah. So why is it red and why is it not like the other stars? And there's no stars. And the stars are different. There's no star and it's an owl and no lightning.
Yeah.
So what is up with that? I'm like,
very odd, right? Yeah, I have no idea. I know, working with the military in the past, I know that they sometimes send stuff out, but go ahead and get this. But but very interesting.
This one, on the other hand, I kind of like.
Yeah, the new one actually stylistically, at least, is new and interesting and different. But yet again, it's just like, well, let's see here. It says down here, what's the mission here? So the mission is to deliver unparalleled technical expertise and game-changing intelligence, empowering national leaders, joint force warfighters, and acquisition professionals to outwit, outreach, and win in the space domain. I mean, that's a little ambiguous, but
buzzwords.
Yeah. Very brand new. It was launched in June of June 24th. So as we're recording this on July 8th. So yeah, it just happened. But yeah, very weird, right? Even the mission's so ambiguous, right? We're empowering national leaders. We're joint force warfighters. We're professionals to outwit. I mean, it's just like, what? What are we? Like, it makes me think of like Han Solo's mission statement, or what is this?
Yeah, I think like the statement looks more like technical and techie, and this is more like, okay, Egypt, a little like back in the day kind of sort of vibe.
Back in the day, way back in the day.
Ancient, it looks like ancient, but it's like, I kind of get like being above, being like a, how do you call that thing again? My English is kind of bad. The person there with the helmet, it's a
pharaoh?
Yeah,
pharaoh.
like they're above
Sphinx.
like above the regular people, So I kind of get that with being like on the edge, but besides that, it's not really saying this is the future.
Yeah, and I mean, and yet again, it's just very weird because it begs more questions of like, because again, we won't get too deep in the conspiracy stuff, but the fact that pharaohs used to be buried in pyramids, and the idea was that they would be launched off to these stars. And so even in this, you have a pharaoh staring up at that star. Just very strange. I mean, it's just very... They could have done something more boring, and they chose to do this. And this got approved. You know, I don't know. Like, if you've ever done anything with the government or the military, there's so many levels of bureaucracy and approval. So the fact that this went up all the way of the chain of the command, and they were like, yeah, this is great. Yeah, this is exactly what we're doing, is just very interesting. So... Like, it makes me wonder what they rejected, right? If this is what they landed on, I almost wonder what crazy thing, you know, was it a ferret, like a ferret, like the animal with like a space helmet, or like how weird did it get before they landed on this?
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering what the budget for something like that is. You know, you would think it's the government, it's the Space Force. I don't know how big that budget is.
$100,000.
Yeah,
this emblem probably is $100,000.
Yeah, well,
no, I was joking.
It is what it is.
Hey, I mean, it's interesting though, right? You know, you got to think that there's some guy in some military base that's like really happy with this logo, and it looks cool. I just don't. It just seems scary to me. I don't know. It's like, okay, I guess this is like the logo of when we go to war in space, I guess. But yeah, it's just very interesting. But yeah, I just want to bring that up. It's a new logo. That's a new thing that just happened. So I always want to share these like kind of weird things as they pop up in my world.
Yeah, but also very creative. Like on that note, it's like it's not like all U.S. You know, you didn't see any like flags or something, but that kind of is like, okay, this is a location on Earth that is kind of getting represented. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it's it's just interesting. I mean, it's I'm really interested to see like what's the next 100 years look like with Space Force in general. You know, a project, you know, if I can ever find it someday, it'd be really funny to show on this. So when I was a senior in college, one of my thesis kind of design projects was for a space elevator. So I've always liked the idea of having this idea of a space elevator that bring people out of the atmosphere, and then from there they would launch this station, because a lot of people don't know that's where most of the money comes in launching a spacecraft, is just getting something out of the atmosphere. And so it was a pretty cool project where I literally branded this whole hypothetical space elevator. So I made these like cool tickets, like what does the ticket look like to get on the space elevator? What's the branding on all the walls as you're walking up in the space elevator? So it's just really cool to think of like, what does the branding of the future look like? And maybe this is what they were thinking about, right? When the year is 3000 and we're having a huge space war over Mars, maybe this is the logo on all the flags.
Well, you're going the positive route instead of being all united, and you're going like, how will be the space wars going on? But yeah, it's a military thing.
Here's the twist. Space wars against aliens. What? No, I'm just joking.
No, the damn space Mexicans.
Whoa.
I'm just kidding.
Whoa. That was a hot take.
No, I'm Mexican myself. So, no, I don't know.
I can tell, mi hombre, I can tell.
But yeah, so it would be nice that we get more united versus like the divided. But it's kind of cool seeing like it's 2022 and there's Space Force and there's space stuff. Elon is doing his thing, you know. Mm-hmm. It's a cool future on the positive side.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, at least we're going to be able to escape someday if this planet blows up. So that's good news. I mean, yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see. I mean, yeah, just to see the branding roll out. You know, what's interesting is you see NASA's logos never changed though. Like that thing is like just stayed the same forever.
True.
So
that basically indirectly means like they maybe do the same thing, you know, and that designer basically got the holy grail. Then if that's like a government thing, you're like, if you go onto their website, they have like, where was it? I want to pull that up, kind of sorta. So they have like their medals of honor, you know, and they represent whatever they are wearing. Like, let me share my screen, and share. So we can, like you see here, this is already an honor, you know, logo, and all those things are basically being displayed as a medal of honor. You know,
yeah. Well, definitely very interesting, yeah, because you do have like the old design of all these old medals, and that goes
a thing you cannot switch up. You know, it was like,
Yeah, that is an interesting point. Definitely almost worth like its own podcast, really, where we could almost go into just all the medals and how those are. Because I mean, a lot of that stuff, I don't even know where that comes from, right? Like, when was the Medal of Honor even designed, right? Like, is that back in the 1920s, 40s? Is that a World War II thing? I don't even know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, but you're right. It's interesting how you have like these kind of old school symbology where it's like a bunch of eagles like holding things of grain and stuff like that, and now you have this new symbology where you have this globe and this big star off in the distance, and yeah, just really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely a thing where you can kind of get excited about the future and stuff like that. And yeah, so you also can sign up with the Space Force right now. After Googling this, I was like, oh, sign up. And I'm like, what?
Oh, wow.
But yeah.
Sign on.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you need a career switch, it's maybe the way.
Now's the time, everybody. Join Space Force, where you too can be a pharaoh that looks to the stars.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so it's a cool project, 100%. I really dig the designs of the first two, like the Space Force and the Delta 18. The rest, I'm like, kind of,
Yeah, some of them are a little miss, for sure. Yeah, some of them are kind of, ugh, but yeah.
Yeah, it didn't really make sense. But I wanted to talk a little bit about being productive, you know? You are really good with that because you're a very organized person. Yeah. I personally am a little bit ADHD, and I kind of go with the flow. What is not really the way to go? I'm just like very curious, how do you structure your day? You know, how to get the most out of it, you know? And what is your mindset when sitting down? And then I'll go over mine, if that's kind of a thing.
Yeah, well, first thing is I don't sit down. So I do a standing desk. So right now, even as I do this, I'm standing up. So that's one thing right there is just standing up all day. You're just more aware. You're more awake. You stay active. You don't get so fat so easily. Also, I have a bad back, so it helps me. But yeah, so I mean that's number one is just standing up in general. And then. But yeah, in terms of organization, it's interesting because it's well, I guess just staying productive. I guess it's interesting because I still struggle with it to this day in some regards. I mean, when there's like something that's really not fun ahead for the day, which as a web designer, I think any web designer out there can definitely attest to some days that are just like, oh my god, today's the day I have to do all this not fun things for a designer, but maybe fun for a developer and engineer, but not for a designer. But
yeah.
And so when those things that kind of come up, I definitely am that guy that's like sitting on the couch drinking his coffee in the morning, just like, I'll just sit here another 10 minutes. Another 10 minutes is okay, yeah.
That is very relatable.
So I think all creatives, everyone struggles with that, especially like when you have a project that goes bad, right? Like you've showed the client something like, I kind of hate everything you've done, but I like this one little thing. Can you do more work? It's hard to like then be like, cool, yay, let's go do more work when you like kind of get broken down, right? So
yeah.
So it's a lot of it's just like you just have to start. I mean, there's a lot of things in the morning where like I try to like my brain starts to do the stuff where it's like coming up with excuses and bargaining and all this stuff, and you sometimes just gotta be like, just open up the document and just get to work, and then you get that momentum going. Because I know if you sit there and you think about it too much. You get scared of it. And so for a lot of people that work at home, I think that's the problem, where when you're at an office, there's really nothing else to do. It's like you got a computer in front of you, or you can go stand by the cooler and talk to people. But other than that, it's like you kind of have to work. And there's people in the office that do that too. If you ever worked in an office, there's definitely those people that just like every day are just like walking around, talking to everyone, going to go get some cookies in the kitchen, go stand outside for a second, So, but, it's the longer that you kind of do that, I think it's you just put yourself in a bad place. So, yes, that's my first two things is just stand up and just get started. That's half of it. And then, just having lists, I think, I keep just coming back to lists anytime I talk about anything like this, just because you just get lost if you don't. If you're going into your workday and you don't have a list of what needs to get done, you don't have some type of list, then you are going to put yourself in a world of hurt. Because first off, like it's easy to run through a list, but then second off, it's easy to miss stuff that like the creative world's weird. Where like right where I send something to a client and now the ball's in their court, and
you just wait.
But if I just wait and I don't set any alerts for me to check in, if I don't put it to do like 3 days from now, if I don't put a thing to say, hey, check in with that client if they haven't gotten back, that's how projects like that should be done in a month turn into 4 or 5 months. So So I definitely always say that as well too, is like when you send something out, make that give yourself an alert to check in, because you may be good at organization and doing stuff, but your client may not. And so, and that's going to leak into your lane too. So I would say that's kind of my number 3 on it too, is just like, make sure to make steps for not only your part of the process, but like whoever your client is too, because they look to you to guide the project. I mean, that was one of the things that took me a long time to learn early on was that, they look to you to be organized. They look to you to guide the project, right? So if you start to look at the client to guide things and keep things on track and time, you may be setting yourself up. So you really
an interesting thought. I did not thought about that, but that makes a lot of sense, because like as the client, you're not the expert, and technically, you're looking to the other side and hoping they are the expert and leading you through the way,
Yeah, which is what you want anyway, right? I mean, and it's just like, if you get your car fixed, it's not like they're looking to you to come up with the schedule, right? You're like, hey, mechanic, how long is this going to take? And then they tell you, and then, and if they need an answer from you, then they need to like keep checking in. So it's like, so it's the same thing. A lot of people forget that. I think they like, send a proof of a logo to a client, and then 3 weeks pass, and then they're telling me, I don't know, man, I thought it was a good logo, but I never heard anything. And I'm like, yeah, but did you check in? Well, no, I didn't check in. It's like, oh, well, you should have checked in, because they maybe liked it or didn't like it, or maybe they didn't even see it. Maybe your email even went in the spam and you don't even know. I've had that
He's
happen.
kind of late with that, so...
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I've had that happen where like I've waited 2 weeks and been like, why are you not getting back? And then I'll like talk to them and they'll be like, oh, did you send that to this email? I don't even use that email. I'm like, oh, okay. And they're like, oh, I thought you were taking forever. So I would always make, notes in the process. So, even when I send off a proposal, for example, I'll literally put like a to-do note, like 2 days later, check in about proposal. And sometimes they get right back and then you just cross it out 2 days later. But I definitely say to do that, because it's that stuff that kills you. Making the stuff, making the video, making the logo, that's at the forefront of your mind. But it's all that other stuff that's going to kill you, like checking in, make sure to write the invoice, make sure to update their invoice, make sure to send them a change of scope for the contract. All those little things, that's the stuff that kills creatives, where if you don't put that down, if you literally don't write that down, you're going to forget about it.
Yeah. That's definitely good advice right there. I had that happen too, kind of with like the last wedding that I booked, and I'm just like, okay, it's on my calendar to just let them know I'm still showing up, still gonna do the thing, and all those things are lined up already. And if you need like kind of like a guidance with that, like Honeybooks is kind of cool, because like they already put that in there, and they're like, hey, you should send an email out, But obviously, not everybody uses apps and stuff like that, and I don't use it all the time. I think more like for myself, there's like projects where I'm like, okay, I kind of want to be self-expressatory, or I want to self-express myself, and I should work on a project. Like, for example, that demo reel that you said like I should do, I'm like, still have not done yet, and I'm just like, I don't feel the urgency to do it, and I don't have that, okay, it's crunch time. And like yesterday I had like a moment of David Goggins. I'm like, why am I so lazy? I'm just like, I should do more, And
Yeah, well, and I think you got to identify laziness, right? I think, to get a little bit to a psychology place, what is laziness, right? Laziness is, a lot of the times, it's depression or anxiety or something like that, that as major, I don't think like people are lazy. Like, I don't think you're a lazy person in terms of like you don't want to do anything. It's just like, if there's lockups in your mind about things. So in this case, like the demo reel, there may be something holding you back on that. That's why you're being lazy about it. Is there something that either depresses you about it or makes you anxious about it, or, but yeah, it's definitely something like, I think you do this well, where you actually are like, don't be perfect. Just make something, make anything, right? Yeah. That's this podcast is us learning on camera. And so I think, I think that's part of it too, is it just goes back to just start it. Like, start the demo reel. It's going to be awkward.
Or maybe a believing thing. Like, it could be like that. I don't really believe in the reels and demos, Like, I believe, like, if I post work on Instagram and you do a reel, it can get several thousand views. But if I do the demo reel, I'm like, oh, this is 20 views, and now I showed something where I'm like, it's maybe not related to a client or potential client, but I think it's like cool stuff, you know?
Yeah, well, I think a reel is, and I would argue, and I may be wrong in this. This may be a hot take I'm wrong on, but
Yeah.
that like
Give me the hot
5,000
take.
5,000 views of your IG reel probably will still equal the same amount of money as 20 views on your website of your demo reel. Like they're both gonna become the same amount of money. Because if I'm on your website, I'm already halfway there. Like you're already half convinced me. So then that's when the video does a lot of good. Where on Instagram it's just a bunch of doom scrolling. It's just like another videographer that's like, oh cool, here's your demo reel, next video.
True.
So that's the argument there of like I would still say they're both so I wouldn't get caught too much in the views. I think the views and the engagement that all has like that definitely has some value, but it's about going after the perfect customer, right? Which isn't another videographer, just like me. Like I could make all these cool hypothetical logo designs and put it on Instagram and maybe get a lot of love around that, but the love is going to be from other designers, right? Like none of my clients are really looking up logo on Instagram, and if they are, they're just looking for inspiration. They're not really looking for a designer.
Sean, you just inspired me to actually put that out in the universe. After talking about the Space Force and all those nice logos,
The tiger, the chopsticks tiger's listening. Be careful.
Yeah, no. If anybody from the Space Force is listening, I will be your Space Force videographer.
Boom.
Yeah,
You heard it
business
here
opportunity. Yeah, just any government official, just sign me up. I got
There you go. There you go. There you
But
go.
yeah, anyhow.
But yeah, and I mean, I think, and with that, so like if you were going to be in Space Force, if you were going to do that, then yeah, it would be like just get out there and make videos that you think Space Force would want, right? Make all these space videos and drone nighttime photography videos, and it's just doing stuff, right? It's just
Is
like,
there nighttime in space?
well, I mean, nighttime here so you can see space. I guess that's what I meant. But, whoa, there's a nighttime in space. But
Everything is green instead of black.
But yeah, so I mean, like, so like, so for you, yeah, we've discussed off camera, like you doing, like a wedding demo reel, because that's a market. That's a sales flow. That's a sales funnel. So it's like, so it's about getting people to that page, having that video look slick and great, and show that you've done weddings before. And I think that's. And it doesn't have to be that much. I mean, I think just like most things, you just got to get started, and it's awkward because you're going to be like, all right, I got to pull this clip here. Where did I put that clip? And it's like, ugh. But then once you start going and sledging through the mud, you'll start to be like, okay, you know what? I have a lot here. And that almost always happens to me is like I start the process and I'm like, ugh. But then like fast forward an hour later and I'm going. I'm like, oh, actually, this was cool. Oh, I didn't even know I had this thing. Oh, I just had an idea about all of this. And so it's like once you kind of get going, but yeah, it is definitely hard to start, especially when it's not like a big, sexy, shiny thing. It's more just for marketing or for the business side of things. That's when it's like, we're like, oh, okay, I guess I'll do this eventually.
Yeah, like the marketing side is like for me probably the weakest point, kind of. I like creating stuff if I'm excited about it, and like oh, I have a cool idea, let's make a YouTube video about it, or let's make an Instagram reel, or if I'm in the right mood, let's post like a bunch of reels, and then I get somewhat of an engagement. But if it's like for marketing, and the real work, I'm like, But if it's like an in-person fun thing, I can talk to people, I love it. But yeah, I have to get more like down and dirty, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's hard, right? Because I mean, because you don't grow up as a kid wanting to market stuff, right? You don't grow up in. It's not like you were in art class and back in grade school, or where you were like coming up with marketing. Like you were making pretty
did they
pictures.
do that in school? Like in
no,
your art
no,
school?
no. Well, in art school, it was interesting. Is like even in a design college setting, there's some talk of marketing. But not enough, I don't think. I mean, like, it's funny is because you have a lot of marketers that are trying to be designers, but you don't have a lot of designers that are really trying to be marketers, and it's really interesting. So I mean, so I think that for me, it's like, it's just about getting started and making lists, and then just going down the lists. Now, I think also too, it's allowing yourself not to do stuff too. I mean, that's okay if like you have a bad day and you're like, you know what, we just got to take an early day. That's okay, because it's all about sustainability too, right? Because if you start banging your head against something, like you're not going to be able to show up every day. So I've had to get better at that. Where there's some days where I'm just like, I'm not able to do this. I'm like, I'm just not there. Whatever I'm going to produce is not going to be good enough, and I just literally need to like go take a walk, like go do something that's not design related. I've seen a lot of people that just burn out because they're just like, oh, I gotta go. I don't like doing this, but I gotta keep pushing myself to do it. And it's just not sustainable.
I think also like there's like a key difference that you have to know, and you have to know about yourself. Like you and I are kind of different, you know. Like you're a little bit more introverted. I'm a little bit more extroverted. I know what motivates me, and it's like literally the stupid motivational videos that you hate. You know what I mean? So it's like it's kind of important to know what motivates you and what pushes the right buttons on you. You know what I mean? And then remind you to consume them so that you actually get motivated. You know. And I sometimes forget that. What it's like, oh, the other day I had that David Goggins kind of sort of thing. Like, yeah, why am I so lazy? You know, where my wife is like, she cannot handle like that harsh critique, and I need it. You know.
Well, right, and I think like, so you know, so what do you listen to? So you mentioned David Goggins. Is there anyone in the creative world you do listen to? That really inspires you? Is there anything that, like, when you're having a bad day, putting it on kind of helps at least?
No, like in the creative world, there's not actually many people who are like, hey, sit down, write that, or draw that, or do that, you know? There's not many people, so technically we should be those people. So if you're listening right now, sit down and draw that picture, make that Space Force logo, make it better.
Yeah, make your version of a weird Space Force logo. That's exactly right.
Yeah. Yeah, but what motivates you, Sean? Like, this is like, as your personality type, describe it, and then what motivates you?
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, and to kind of to answer my own question about some of the stuff that I listen to that motivates me when I get kind of stuck in a place. I know in the past you and I have talked about, you know, the future with Christo. So shout out to that. You know,
stuff.
He's been doing that podcast, or really just that whole thing for like 5 years now, 6 years. I know that helped me a ton just during the pandemic to just kind of, you know, have that in the background. Even just hearing people talk about stuff was great. I know there's tons of videographers out there too that do really good at just like breaking things down and sharing all their secrets and things like that. So it's good to do those. I think also there's a lot of comical stuff out there too that I really like, where people will like review logos but in a really funny way, or they'll like redo a logo in a very kind of goofy way. And that stuff also kind of at least lightens me up, because as you know, I'm kind of more of the dark, you know, designer, brooding type. So like when I have this goofy stuff that's kind of in front of me or behind me, you know, so like even yesterday, I was at my co-working space, and this guy saw that I had Joe Rogan on, and I had it on behind, and he's like, "Oh, you're a Joe Rogan fan. Why would you listen to Joe Rogan? That's kind of a weird thing to listen to, like while you're doing stuff." And I was like, "Yeah," and it was even one of the funny episodes, right? It wasn't like it was one of the astrophysicists. It was like him and comedians talking, like, you know, doing poop jokes, you know. And so it's just like, he's like, "Why are you listening to it? Like, how does that like?" And I was like, well, it chills me out. It calms me down in a weird way, where like, you know, I'm that intense guy that's like, you know, in my mind, it's like, you know, you have Bach playing in the background, just some like intense like orchestra, and it's like where I need to like calm down. I need to laugh. I need to. So I think to kind of bring that full circle, I think, you know, the things that I know that I listen to is stuff like The Future. The Design Better podcast is a great one. There's a plethora. Design Matters with Deborah Millman. I mean, she's like, so those are some kind of the big ones out there, but it's cool too, because then you just like, I don't know, there's something calming about like people talking about their process and talking about things about creativity, kind of like us. So hopefully this podcast for someone out there is at least nice background noise, where they at least
soon we will be there soon.
But yeah, so I guess, but yeah, to get to a place where like, what gets me motivated, is just reminding myself this is such a cool life that we live, right? I mean, like how like blessed are we to like be able to make cool stuff? You can make stuff, you can show stuff to people, and it's just so cool. I mean, like I don't know about your jobs before being creative, but my jobs before being creative are pretty hardcore. I mean, I was a driving instructor out on a range, like a driving range. So some days like today here in Colorado, it's going to probably hit 90 degrees. I would be standing all day on blacktop today for 10 or 12 hours just on blacktop. just
Yeah.
baking in the sun. Or like when I worked like, a pizza job, when I make pizza, it's just a nightmare, especially during a rush. I worked at Taco Bell for a couple months, or I used to be a party leader at a place here in town that used to be called Mr. Biggs, which was just this big, arcade center for kids. But I was like I was that guy that was like leading their birthday parties. It just ugh, like I can't imagine doing those jobs now. I just like literally, it gets me kind of physically ill to even think about doing those. And so like we just have.
But
this
on the
lucky
one
life.
side, you gotta show some love to them too, because like it's kind of hard to sometimes wrap your head around creative work. It's like it's so ambiguously, like it's not like, okay, today I go to Taco Bell and I make some tacos and I'm done. It's really easy to relax. It's really easy to do. It's still it's still hard work and it's needed work. But creative work is also like kind of different and can be painful too. It's like, okay, now I have to sit down and just code, and everything can kind of get ugly. I just want to show some love to them because I appreciate them and I like their food.
Yeah. We do. And I'm not talking down about any of these people. I think, they're just on their different, we've all had to be on that journey, right? So they're on that part of their journey. And what's interesting is some people like that stuff too. Some people love Taco Bell, working at Taco Bell. Some people do love standing on blacktop all day. Like there is those people. So, what's interesting about the creative world that I think a lot of creatives have a hard time with is just the fact that they sign up for the job so they can do fun stuff, and they sign up for the job sometimes to get appreciation, to have their work in front of everyone and have everyone clap and say they're doing a good job.
Awesome.
And yeah, exactly. And I think like what kills people is the getting down and dirty in the work, or when something doesn't go right and you need to like now turn something around really quickly, or you need to be humble and say sorry a million times as you're working your butt off. I think that's when creatives are like, this isn't what I signed up for. Because a lot of creatives, like I've said in past episodes, I think are like old painters, or they're like old, they've done creative stuff when they were younger, and that was completely just for their own enjoyment. So when they get to adulthood and they start to do kind of these creative careers, I think they're a little turned off that they're like, oh, there's some.
I have to actually work.
yeah. There's parts of this that aren't that fun. There's parts of this that really are just work. So.
Yeah, I mean, like on that note, I'm just like, not everything in life has to be fun, and we're kind of blessed nowadays that we just have to work. It's like it's kind of nice. It could be worse. It could be like, go out there, hunt your boar, and kill that boar, and then prepare the boar and do the whole thing. But he is like, okay, I got to sit down and open that laptop and open that Word, and just type some stuff down. But
no, you're 100% right. I mean, it's I always make the joke that if the world ever ends, like I'm probably one of the most useless people to have in your survivor party. Like, I'll come up with the best logo for our tribe, but other than that, I can't build you a house. I can't create an irrigation system for you. So we're really lucky. We're really a product of living in a good time for humanity, right? That we can have so many creatives doing this stuff, that we can have, technology's in such a cool place. All this stuff that was like unbelievably hard or unbelievably expensive to do is now really easy. So making a logo back in 1922 versus 2022 is vastly different, and it's so much easier now. So it's really just, you just have to keep reminding yourself, like, you have the best job in the world. If you're able to be creative and survive, you've got the coolest job in the world. Like,
yeah, that's actually, it makes me really appreciative right now, because like it's kind of like going back to SpaceForce, the fact that we are living, on a planet with the right distance to the sun. Everything is like perfectly aligning. Now take that concept and think about AI and like the internet and having all those tools right now. This is like the perfect moment in time where we can go out there, create something, and maybe in the future we will never create again, and it's like, oh, somebody else does it, but right now is the moment where we can create, and do stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I think we've talked about AI in past episodes. We've talked about
it's like scary stuff, but right now we should enjoy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. Just to enjoy it and and enjoy the process, enjoy friction. I think that's something too a lot of people don't enjoy. Like even 10 years into a career, I still feel that thing in my gut when I get the email back from the client where they're like, "Hey, you totally missed the mark. That's not what I wanted." And then I think a lot of creatives, that's when they get upset. That's when they're like, screw this project, screw this client. But appreciate the friction. Some of the coolest stuff I've ever made happened when someone burned down the thing that I just made. And so it's like almost like be in love with the process. Don't be against the process. If you're against the process, you're going to keep feeling hurt. You're going to keep feeling anxious. So it's like there's a point where you have to, just like the Bob Ross, the famous painter, Bob Ross would say, is you just got to let yourself go. You have to let the art take control. You'll have to let the process take control.
Yeah, I kind of want to Google like a phrase because that kind of sums it up for me. I completely forgot it, but Alex Hermosi said it, and he's like popping up right now with like, it's not about, so I probably misquoted right now, but it's not about the reward. It's about the hard work, You do hard work to do hard work, and it sounds like kind of backwards, but it's like, it's not about like, getting the reward and being there. It's about the journey, kind of, sort of. It's just differently phrased, And you do hard work to do hard work, and you're doing light work for doing light work. But whatever you do, you should do it,
Well, yeah. I mean, it's to go back
and find enjoyment in it.
Yeah. To go back to your David Goggins thing, that's kind of his MO, right? Is like the suffering is the best part. The pain is the best part. And I think that can be said too. Is just allow yourself to be okay with the friction. Be okay with the struggle. The struggle is good. That's just how it goes. The best work comes from struggle usually. And so it's hard to it's something that we're gonna have to just touch on in multiple episodes probably. The kind of how do you stay motivated? How do you stay empowered? But the thing too is just like get back to what got you excited about this, and be honest with yourself. If you're not excited about it, like if every project sucks and you get you get a proposal approved, and instead of being excited that you just got this approved, this new project, you're actually like dreading it. That's something to take notice of, right? Maybe you got into this thing for the wrong reasons, and that's not bad either. I've known plenty of people that were designers and became lawyers, or were an illustrator who became like an accountant or something. That does happen too.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. But also, like, I kind of want to do the opposite and just throw it out there. Sometimes you need to do the hard work, and don't have to be excited about it. And there's always that wave. It goes up and down. You just have to be like, does that align with my goal? And then maybe you have to put in the hard time, or maybe you have to switch up. But yeah. And sometimes, and I'll be honest, sometimes I've had to be like, what, I'm just doing this to get money to do the cool projects, and that's okay too, because that's better than doing Burger King, right? Like, so if I need to make money on the side so I can do these cool design projects, it's cooler to do other design projects, even if I don't like them. That's still closer to being a designer than working at Burger King to help fund these design projects. So I think of it like that too. Like, even if it's a project that's not really that great or fun, this is still going to fund the good projects, and this is a hell lot better than me mopping up a bowling alley or something, Or a toilet or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, so it's at least like, at least it's close to what you want to do. So
yeah.
So like for me, there's definitely some clients and things that I do that I don't really show. I don't put it in the portfolio. I don't really talk about. But they consistently pay their bills, and that helps me do the fun projects. And so it's a lot better than me going and donating plasma and trying to save up money slowly just so I can do fun design projects.
Yeah, you know what we forgot though?
What did we forget?
You don't?
Well, I forgot.
We should have talked. We should have told the people to rate our podcast 5 stars on Spotify, because that will help us a lot. And I think that is like one of the things we have to work on. The next time when we have our podcast, and the next time you listen to this podcast, in the first 3 minutes, you're going to rate that thing. And we will mention it. Call to action.
We will mention it. This is a promise to you, the viewer. We will mention it. And then we're also on YouTube now, I guess, right? So Infinite
first
Creative
episode
Podcast
is up.
Cool.
Yeah,
so cool.
So,
so
I'm kind of excited about that. And
So, add us on YouTube, do the Spotify. We're also on Instagram, people. Also, feel free to email anything at infinitecreativepodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, I like that. And actually, we're getting places now. We're doing things. We're
getting there. We're almost like real podcasters now. We're getting there.
Well, we are real podcasters. We actually have the video, we have the audio, and we just stepped everything up a little bit.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. Yeah.
So, do you have any creative projects going on that you worked on last week or this week?
Well, yeah, I have kind of one fun one that it's in process right now.
I want to hear all about it. Give me a quick summary of what you're doing.
Well, yeah, this one's a very just small one. I'll just tell a very small kind of. So I have this old client where we've always done just goofy projects. So he likes to have parties and things, and so we do these like flyers for these goofy parties and stuff. So he actually has a group of guys that he goes out and he pans for gold up in the mountains. And so me and him were putting our minds together. He's like, I want to get these guys like a cool takeaway, like a cool souvenir, but I can't think of like what's a cool souvenir. Like we talked about like getting pans with a logo in it, so they're panning with his logo. And he's like, yeah, I don't know. He's like, I don't know, because it's not like a business. It's like just a group of friends. He just wants to like come up with a. So we came up with like, how about hats, sun hats, right? You're up there above timberline,
useful.
And so the sun is just beating down on you. Let's like everyone in your group, let's give him a sun hat with like the cool logo or whatever on it for that.
Oh, like that.
And so our minds were together like, well, what does this logo look like? And we really were like thinking through. And the name of his group is called Spoonful, because I guess it's like a spoonful of gold. I guess is what is like the concept. So I did this illustrated logo of it looks like an old cereal box where
that's what I had in my hand too.
Yeah, where it's like an engraved style with like these chunks of gold in the spoon. It's like a little water poking out, and it's like kind of cool. But he kind of pushed back. He's like, I don't know about that. He's like, I had this other idea, and he's like, I really like the Rolling Stones logo. I'll go ahead and pull that up here just so you can see it.
So right now I'm imagining, a Kellogg's box, slightly angled, and a person reaching out of the Kellogg's box with a spoon, with some like, here, spoonful of gold.
Exactly. It essentially.
So I always get like clear visions of if I get a design idea, like, I exactly want this. Right. You have that too, or how you do your?
Well,
designs?
yeah, I think I kind of do too. And I just listen to what they say, and I kind of poke and prod. I say, so maybe like an old engraved style, right? And he's like, yeah, maybe that is it. And so it's
okay.
But yeah, that's kind of where I gravitate.
Do you lead them with that though into the thing that you want?
Sometimes, if they're, I definitely let them lead me though, because you do have to remember they're the one paying the bill at the end of the day, so they got to be happy with it. So, but yeah, so he really loves the Rolling Stones logo. This old iconic logo. And so he was like, how can we make this logo into something where we have how do we have a spoon in this? Maybe does this become mountains, the top of those lips? How do we make a logo that kind of looks similar to this? So I'll go ahead. I'll pull this up. Why not? I'll show you in process.
Yeah,
this is a very safe project. So I wouldn't expect me to do this all the time, but this one's like I don't think he would care at all. So let me see if I can actually show the first one I sent him to here. Maybe yeah. So we'll start here. So I'll show you the first logo. What I had sent. So what I had first sent before he had told me the Rolling Stones thing. So a spoonful, and this is just a first draft too. So he definitely commented on how the gold kind of started to look like cottage cheese or something here. How he's like, we're not
greenish on the screen.
Yeah, on the screen it's a little, gold's a hard color, so yeah, it does come out a little tinted on the green side. But so this is where we kind of started with this first logo. Is just okay, well we're gonna do more of an engraved style. So I did this like hand drawn spoon, hand drawn everything. Kind of a little lockup. But yeah, he's like, I really like the Rolling Stones logo though. And so from here I was like, okay, well how do we break this into like kind of mountains with the spoon? So yeah, we kind of came up with concepts. We were playing with like, do we want chunks of gold? Do we want like gold dust? How does this lock up with things? How does this look? And so we also decided, let's lose the type on the front, because the front of the hat, there's only like 4 inches.
I like when people do the presentation, how it would look on a subject,
Yeah, and I always suggest people to do this, especially in this case. A sun hat is just a really small area, so doing this, we're like, oh yeah, that type's going to get real small. So maybe we put the spoonful on the back of the hat, And so the
Yeah.
actual text is on the back of the hat, and so then on the front you have all this room for the actual graphic. So still in process. This is like just a second draft, but so that was this is kind of a fun project where we're like, all right, well, how do we take the Rolling Stones logo and make it into like like
I'm
a
getting
gold
like
panel
so
logo?
many ideas. It's not funny. I have like right now in my head like guy with a chunk of gold, like and showing the thing like spoonful of gold, and that shows you a spoon of gold.
Right,
And then
exactly.
his mouth, you see like a little gold thing that he's like biting on, the buy test of gold.
Yeah, who knows? That may be next year. I mean, this is a thing that he does yearly, so so we've already talked about. Yeah, maybe next year's we'll be doing different concepts. So that may be a concept coming up.
Yeah, just take it, do it.
Just do it. Take that idea. So yeah, so that's one project I'm working on. How about you, man? Is there anything you want to show or talk about?
Yeah, so right now I'm kind of struggling with it, like making up excuses and coming up with some bullshit ideas. I do like YouTube reviews about bikes. Got a new e-bike. It's a banger bike. I really dig it. And I filmed my A-roll where I'm like talking about the bike, and it didn't turn out how I wanted. So I wanted to refilm it. And then I'm like, oh, the yard is not clean. Oh, this is not clean. And yeah, kind of make another video so I can get another sponsored deal going. And yeah, that is
Yeah,
like
so
a thing.
I guess tell the people out there too. Like, so is this something common that you do? Is that like getting these sponsor deals? Like, what do you mean when you say sponsor deals? Like, how does that work? What are you doing?
Like, let's say if you're a small creator, like for us, for example, if we reach a good amount of content and we have some, let's say, a very polished episode of the Infinite Creative Podcast where we basically show this is like a banger episode, and we get like 5 of them, like first we have to get the show started and dial everything down, and then it's the finest quality we can make, and it's really engaging, and we get all the views, and it's great. Then we can go out to Skillshare or Workspace. No, not Squarespace, not Workspace. I don't know. Everything is space nowadays. Mm-hmm. But basically, we can say like, hey, this is our product. This is what we have. We're small. We know. But this is banger content. You want to have your ads on that, or you want to display your product of whatever it is. So you need like the high polished content, and then you can get like free stuff. And
So
you
yeah,
have to
so how'd you get in the
then.
e-bike world of that, I guess? Tell me a little bit about that. Like, why e-bikes, and how did you get into e-bikes with it? Like, did you get an e-bike first and then decide to do sponsor videos, or was like you didn't even have an e-bike?
So completely weird though. First I got a booster board after I sold my car because my car had an accident, and I'm like, okay, I flipped the car, get an electric skateboard. From electric skateboard, I went to scooters. From scooters to e-bikes. And then from e-bikes, I got my first free bike, and I'm like, whoa, this is cool with the pedaling, And I'm like, oh, I can get free stuff. And then I got like free presets for like Premiere Pro where you can get transitions. And I got like a pack for 120, how do you say 120,000? Not 120,000, but 1,200 transitions in a pack. And I'm like, instead of paying $50, like I'm like, hey, if I make a review about your transition pack, can I get it for free? It raises awareness, doesn't cost anything to the person, and then you basically can get free stuff. And after you realize what you have to do to get it, you kind of get into a niche. And the more you have of something, the more you get off that thing. But it also puts you in a niche.
Okay, so so your piece of advice for other people who would want to do this, I guess, would be to just reach out to people. It sounds like you just reached out to these people and just said, "Hey, I'll do a video if you give it to me for free or cheap," and that's just where it starts, I guess.
Yeah, and then you pendle your way up with more pushing the limits and see who says yes. But it's 100 emails and one says yes, and you have to put the 100 emails out there. But it's relatively easy.
Especially if it's a weird thing. I'm sure. Like I'm sure there's some things like video equipment, for example, where there's a lot of videographers that are probably sending those emails. But yeah, I think
some of them are niche, And
very
for
niche
our
stuff,
world, freelance. There's not many. So there is many freelancers, but there's also not many tools that everybody's talking about. If you have like right now a tool that is like nobody talks about this, we maybe should reach out and like, hey, we got this thing. You can get a spot, 30 seconds on this podcast, and we will talk about it, or we will shoot an ad for it. And yeah, every podcast we will mention it for 7 episodes or something like that.
So do you think, is that something that a lot of creatives should do, you think? Do you think that's something something that
Everybody
people
should do.
have in their back pocket, is just trying to do these kind of sponsor things, partnerships with companies.
If they believe it in it, like you should not promote stuff that you don't believe in it. The last thing I did was like that, or the last thing I did for other people was like the hot sauce thing. And I like hot sauce, and the people who I partnered with did not like hot sauce, but I dig hot sauce. And now I have an endless supply of hot sauce.
Nice. Oh, no, that's good. It's a good insight. I mean, I've never done that personally. I've never done any sponsorship, anything. So, that's good. That's good insight. I mean, one thing I could think of doing that too is books. Even like, you send me a free book, we'll do a review on our podcast.
Or
right?
talk about it.
So many design books and stuff too. So, I could totally see something like that. But yeah, that's cool. Okay. Well, yeah, I think.
But usually size matters, Also for Riverside right now, I already figured out. If you sign up with Riverside, because we use it, we like it, just use our link and we will get, I think, like a little commission. And it's really easy. We're going to put our PayPal down and you get a commission. So if you hear this and you want to give back and receive, you shall do it because, click the link. Use Riverside and use our code. And so if you don't do it, they will not do it by you. So bad karma. So use our link.
Do we have a link? Do we have a code?
I think we do have a link and we do have a code, and it goes to a PayPal thing. But have not used it yet, have not set it up yet, have not mentioned it yet till now.
So the beginning of the next episode for everyone listening is going to be amazing, because we're going to talk about YouTube. We're going to talk about these codes. We're really going to just do it all at the beginning of the episode. So this next episode, man, it's going to be 5 minutes of just pure awesome promotion. I just
sell
want you all
out
ready for that.
pure.
So show up early. We're going to be promoting everything. So
actually, if you have like a service going on, you're a freelancer, you want to have us speak in the highest tones about you.
yeah, and with that being said, if you have been thinking about getting on a podcast, if you've been thinking about getting out there, but you don't necessarily have a partner in crime to do it, then hit us up on the email. Yet again, infinitecreativepodcast@gmail.com, or on our Instagram or whatever. Send us a message, ask us to come on. We'll talk. We'll look at your stuff, and most likely you'll be on here and you can talk about tigers with chopsticks in space. I mean, really cool, groundbreaking, creative things.
Actually, we should do that. We should reach out to our next guest. So I think like episode number 4, we will have a guest.
Oh.
And we actually will like interview somebody that we know and who does freelance stuff. And we kind of want to talk about them and see where that is leading us. And
Okay. Yeah. I think, but yeah, if you're out there and you're seeing this and you want to take part in an episode, please send us a message. We'd love to hear from you.
So who are you, and where can they find you?
So again, Sean Craig. You can find me at SeanCraigCreative.com. hello@SeanCraigCreative.com for an email. You can do Instagram, also Sean Craig Creative. And then, other than that, everything else is not really full of work, so don't go there. But other than that, I think, feel free to send an email. You can find us yet again at infinitecreativepodcast@gmail.com. Feel free to send us a message there, or look for us on Instagram at Infinite Creative Podcast. And, just feel free to reach out.
Exactly. There we go. And
Where can they find you?
Me. Yeah, it's FITZAEY. Fitz on all social media platforms, and obviously on the internet, www.fitza.com. And that's how you can find me. Or just type it into YouTube.
Exactly. Well, cool, man. Well, this is a good. I think it was a good little episode. We got into space a little bit. We got into your the David Goggins. I think it was a little bit here and there.
Motivational.
Looked at some spoons and some rivers with some mountains and stuffs, and I think we did good today. I think it was a good one.
Yeah, I like it. So have a good one, guys.
See you guys. Be creative.